Chapter 226 Wanderer's Wife? After settling his family, Maximus proceeded to the main control room. In the room were his two vice guild leaders, Silas and Andrew. "Maximus, you're finally here," Silas greeted. "I'm not late, aren't I?" Maximus smiled. After taking his family to play in the sea, he also got hooked and played for a few hours. The sea is really clear and beautiful, it can't be compared to any artificial lake he built. "Maybe guild leader got lost in the ship," Andrew joked. "Alright, let's activate the ship's spirit to start the ship's calibration," Maximus said. They were already late for a few hours. The other guild members must be impatient. Of course, Maximus didn't care much anyway, as long as he had fun, others didn't matter. Binding the ship's spirit, he began to awaken it. This is the core of the ship, which cost almost 100,000 dimensional coins, which is the bulk of his investment. The ship's spirit is a creature who can control and assimilate ships like their own body. The one in Eternal Voyager is a newborn-born spirit with the strength of Tier 9. With such potential, the money he spent was worth it. Unfortunately, although the ship's spirit is at the 9th tier, it had no combat power on its own. They depend solely on the power of the ship. The only thing it can do is to control the ship like its own body. Fortunately, the ship's spirit he bought provided the ship with unlimited growth. Soon, the ship's spirit slowly awakened. Bit by bit, a wave pulse begins to spread in the ship. Each mechanical and alchemical piece of the ship stagnated for a second and flowed like it was alive. "Eternal Voyager, I've met the host." A soft female voice suddenly rang in the control room. "Your ship's spirit is a bit unique." Silas looked at him knowingly but didn't ask anything. Ship's spirit can also be found in Ethereum realm, but it's scarce. Furthermore, there is no such thing as a growth-type ship's spirit here. The reason he noticed that something was different in the ship's spirit was because of its strength. Usually, the ship's spirit is only at Tier 7 or 8. There were only a handful of Tier 9 ships known in the entire Ethereum realm. For Maximus to get one, Silas was shocked and a little curious. However, Silas was not fond of peering into someone else's secret, so he didn't speak any further. "Guild leader, this ship's spirit reminded me of Wanderer," Andrew said as he reminisced. Remembering the trial where he fought and worked alongside Wanderer, Andrew sighed. After 100 years of being together in such a dangerous world, Andrew couldn't just forget Wanderer. "Aren't I preparing a wife for Wanderer?" Maximus smiled. After knowing that the trial world they were in was real, how can Maximus forget Wanderer? Wanderer was just like a child he made with his own hands. Unfortunately, he was still too weak now, he couldn't even cross his own dimension, much less travel around different dimensions. He can only wish Wanderer to be alive and well, waiting for the time they meet each other again. He specially chose this ship's spirit to be the daughter-in-law of his son, Wanderer. Meanwhile, Eternal Voyager looks puzzled at the people in the control room. As a newborn ship spirit, everything was new to her. "Eternal Voyager, host? What is your order?" Although she was just a newborn, the ship's operation is ingrained in her very spirit. "Just calibrate the ship for now. Furthermore, have you reviewed the map of Quantum Reef Domain and the surrounding chaotic sea I gave you?" "Eternal Voyager, I've already processed it, host." "Where should we go?" Eternal Voyager said with a hint of excitement. "Just take us to the calm seas, we're here to test the ship." Eternal Voyager, right away, host. Calibrating the ship. Checking for any damage. Analyzing the map terrain. Selecting destination. All self-analysis is complete. Destination coordinate is marked. Eternal Voyager, host, should we go now? "No, wait a few hours, my family is still playing." The two people in the room just shook their heads at Maximus' willfulness. A few hours later, his family were tired of playing. Eternal Voyager is finally able to set sail across the chaotic sea. On the top of the deck, Maximus let a gentle wind blow as he looks ahead. The ship's speed didn't enter the light speed, so Maximus was able to enjoy the breeze. As it was still inside the domain, light speed was prohibited. Soon, a few hours later, the ship entered the chaotic sea. Eternal Voyager, host, it's advisable to take shelter inside the ship before it accelerates. Alright, Maximus just nodded and came back to Master Suit. A few days later, thousands of light years away from Quantum Reef Domain. Eternal Voyager, host, we are on our marked destination. Based on my analysis, this is the most peaceful part of the sea within 1,000,000 light-years radius. The sea is calm with a few waves going. If it were not for the occasional chaotic wind, Maximus would not even think they were in a chaotic sea. Then tell the others it's time to hunt, Maximus said with a glint of his eyes. The chaotic sea is full of treasures. If Maximus was lucky, then he could earn his shop's yearly revenue in just a day. This is why he invested almost all his money on the ship regardless of cost. This a miner that can build generations of wealth. This ship was also the main reason his guild advanced to rank 8. It can be said that almost all the wealth of Apex sovereigns and the world's top organizations came from the chaotic sea. It's just that the chaotic sea is too dangerous. Even an Apex sovereign may fall here if they were not careful. While Maximus was in deep thought, the tens of millions of guild members geared up as they marched to the ship compartment. Inside were different ships responsible for the mining operations. Eternal Voyager, what resource collector ship should we use on this sea topography? One of them asks. Eternal Voyager, mining ship T3 would be appropriate. Also, according to radar, you better equip auxiliary weapon XL5 to deal with sea monsters. Thanks, Eternal Voyager. Lightnovel hahaha, Eternal Voyager is the best. Eternal Voyager, you're welcome. Pity Eternal Voyager is a ship's spirit, or I would be willing to marry her. Eternal Voyager, straight face. K. I'm willing to do an interracial marriage. I believe in platonic love. Eternal Voyager, straight face. That right, just the voice of Eternal Voyager is enough. Eternal Voyager, straight face. Hey, you're hopeless. These few days, they already familiarized themselves with the ship's spirit. According to their guild leader, they can ask Eternal Voyager questions if they don't know something. As they were just a bunch of newbies when it came to seafaring. During these few days, they bombarded Eternal Voyager with a bunch of questions until they memorized everything. Fortunately, Eternal Voyager had all this knowledge engraved in her spirit, so she was not overwhelmed. Soon, all guild members hop on each individual ship. As the hatch opened, tens of millions of resource collector ships dived into the sea. Maximus and his family were also curious and hopped on a resource collector ship on their own. In the depth of the chaotic sea. After traveling a few thousand kilometers down, Maximus still couldn't see the land. I wonder how deep the sea is in this part. Maximus thought. The deepest recorded sea is measured in light years, so Maximus was curious how deep he was in. Of course, in the periphery of Quantum Reef domain, the sea is shallow. The deepest recorded sea is only a few 100,000 kilometers. Soon a few hours later, Maximus finally saw the seabed at a depth of about 40,000 kilometers. It's indeed different on the sea floor, Maximus muttered in amazement. Instead of turbid waters, a clear land, colors, and gigantic monsters roamed all around. Various colors intertwined as different creatures emitted their own light. System scan. Maximus commanded. Although the water is clear, chaotic energy is present all around. Any signal here will be blocked, whether it's spiritual consciousness, mechanical device, alchemy device, etc. The reason he instructed tens of millions of his guild members into individual resource collector ships is because automated control won't work. One can only use one's own eyes here to see. Fortunately, chaotic energy can't directly interfere with the ship. The cameras, controls, flow of energy, etc. can still work perfectly. Chaotic energy is a Tier 12 energy responsible for the creation of all dimensions. All the thing from the beginning of time was made from it. Unless it was a similar tier, nothing can penetrate around chaotic energy. If it were not for his system being a remnant of a Tier 12 treasure, Maximus can't even use it to scan around. Chapter 227 Rich Resources. After the system scans, a lot of resources pop up. Found Tier 3 Phosphorescentite. Found Tier 3 Velvet Blossom Coral. Found Tier 4 Celestial Polyps. Found Tier 3 Ethereal Sea Trees. From the most basic aquatic minerals, deposits, corals, and species, the deep sea has so many resources. However, Maximus didn't stop. All the resources he found were marked with a coordinate, which he would send later for others to get. Manipulating the resources collector ship to cruise, he continued to let his system scan for resources. Found Tier 3 Hydrocrystallite. Found Tier 4 Magnetite Spheres. Found Tier 3 Prismatoid Angelfish. Found Tier 5 Abyssalite or Deposits. Oh? A Tier 5 Abyssalite ore deposit. Nice. Abyssalite ore is a hard material suitable for various constructions, whether for architecture, alchemy, mechanics, etc. Such an expensive resource was found in just a few minutes. The chaotic sea is really rich. Meanwhile, the others also have a huge harvest. Although they can't use spiritual consciousness or any scanning tool, they have various cameras around the ship. The cameras will automatically identify and analyze all resources captured and collect the data. Once it was identified as a potential resource, it would immediately be collected. Each guild member was on a looting spree, seeing a bunch of contribution points lying on the sea. Although there was danger from time to time, it's bearable with the capabilities of the resources collector ship and the auxiliary weapon. Thus, like a bunch of locusts, tens of millions of individuals begin to harvest on the chaotic seabed. Maximus's wives and children were also having fun. Entering the seabed is like discovering a new world. His daughter, Lila, was having the time of her life. Nice, a tier 5 gemstone goby fish. I found a treasure. Lila muttered excitedly. As a treasure hunter, Lila seems to have found her paradise. All around there was treasure hiding deeply. Following her instinct, she had already found a lot of treasure. Soon, her instinct seemed to tingle as she stirred the ship in that direction. Another money-grabber child of his, Lux, was in a state of excitement. So much wealth. I'm going to be rich. Lux muttered. With his eyes and physique, Lux quickly found many treasures. He didn't even need the camera's analysis, as he collected everything he thought was expensive. Damn, is this a tier 6 gravityite crystals? Ha ha ha, after mining this one it'll be equivalent to my yearly revenue. As for his favorite child Asha, she seems to be a new baby looking around curiously. Oh, this is a cute fish, come here, Asha muttered. The fish outside the ship seemed to have heard it and willingly approached the resources collector ship. Manipulating the ship, a puppet collected the little fish and brought it to her. What a cute fish, Gasha muttered, flicking the bowl to tease the little fish. What is this? She asks the puppet. Earlier, she was not paying attention to the analysis and whatnot as she was busy viewing the scenery. Golden luck fish can bring luck to its owner. It has unpredictable locations and can only be found by those blessed by luck. Oh, so it's a lucky charm fish, huh? Asha smiled widely. Well, from now on you will be my pet, little fish. Meanwhile, the others were also having fun as they discovered all kinds of resources. Maximus scoured around the seabed, marking all resource-rich places. Traveling hundreds of thousands of kilometers in radius, resources from Tier 1 to 6 were marked on the map. Unfortunately, it seems that Tier 7 is not to be found in this part of the chaotic sea. Seeing there were enough resources marked and the agreed time was near, Maximus stirred the ship up on the water. The ascent was much faster this time, with few obstacles. On the surface, tens of millions of others also resurface. On Eternal Voyager command, various resources collector ship was recovered by the ship as the supplies collected were emptied. After tallying the resources they've got, Andrew came to Maximus to report. Guild leader, this time we earn almost 3 quadrillion worth of resources. 3 quadrillion? Maximus was a little shocked. This is just a resource-poor region of the chaotic sea. The resources he earned this time were more than his monthly revenue when he only sold Tier 6 books. Furthermore, they were only in it for half a day at most. The chaotic sea is really teeming with a lot of resources. How about the casualties? Maximus finally remembered the danger. There had been no casualties so far. Only damage resources collector ship and such. Andrew excitedly said. Earning 3 quadrillion worth of resources is equivalent to a few months of their guild's monthly revenue. So far, their first trip has already been successful. However, thinking of the ship's investments, they still had much to go. Although Andrew didn't know how much their guild leader invested. Just seeing how fast and sturdy their ship was, Andrew knew it was a lot. There was also the ship's spirit, Eternal Voyager. Such an intelligent ship spirit couldn't possibly be cheap. Indeed, Maximus' investment in the ship is equivalent to billions of trillions of magic crystals. At their current rate, they need at least 1,000 years to earn back the cost. That is, if there is no unexpected problem sinking the ship. It can be said that although mining in the chaotic sea is profitable, few have the capabilities and dare to do it. After Maximus heard that there was no casualty, he heaved a sigh of relief. Then continue to mine resources. We will leave here in a few weeks. Maximus thought and said. There are still too few resources here, wasting the true capabilities of the ship. A few weeks should be enough for his guild members to familiarize themselves with the chaotic sea. Also, I passed Eternal Voyager the coordinate of the resource loads I found earlier. Don't bother looking at other places, just mine that one. Resource load? Although Andrew was a bit puzzled, he nodded regardless. After talking a bit more, Andrew hurriedly instructed the other for another descent to the seabed. Soon, the day passed as tens of millions of individuals collected resources in a frenzy. 3 weeks later. With Maximus system scanner, within a few million kilometers, all high-tier resources were found and mined. After weeks, they got about 300 to 400 quadrillion worth of resources. Such enormous resources were an eye-opener for most of them. Especially his wives and children, they finally saw how easy it was to earn money. It was already spread on the floor, you just need to pick them up. Moreover, their father didn't just pick them, he used a vast number of tractors to scoop every bit of it at a faster rate. However, most of his guild members were still dissatisfied and requested to change places because they thought the chaotic sea area they were in was too poor. They had no worries about danger with such an incredible ship that they built with their own hands. Maximus was also happy to comply and instructed Eternal Voyager to move to a more resource-rich area. Although the resources earned here were only equivalent to hundreds of billions of dimensional coins. With this as a cover, he can proudly spend large amounts of money without arousing any suspicion. First, his family can finally use origin mana to bathe. There is no need for a handful of drops because he can't think of a sufficient reason to afford a huge amount. They can finally run wild as he buys high-tier expensive weapons openly. Although they have a Tier 9 protection emulated, his family thought he borrowed money to afford it. Then there is his empire. Although he invested a large amount of money into it, it's all within what his status can afford. Now, he can open his wallet and let the Moonlight Empire be the richest. So what about the top empires? They are shit. After the fall of money comes the strength. Just setting up a Tier 9 empire-wide array can crush all of them. Of course, Maximus didn't dare to underestimate those emperors. The amalgamation of will is a bit weird. Who knew what power they had hidden? Although he was sure to get out scratch-free, he didn't want any unnecessary casualties. Finally, there is his guild. With billions of members, the resources he provided are barely enough. Although most of it is a rare resource, some still couldn't help but complain. Now, with the resources earned in the chaotic sea, he can be magnanimous and even give them a discount. Anyway, the resources were bought in Myriad World Mall, which is very cheap compared to the sale price. Although he would earn less, it would also attract more people to his guild. The capacity of his ship is 3 billion. This means that 3 billion can mine resources simultaneously. Maximus can't just waste additional billions of resources collector ships because of the lack of guild members. Investing in this ship is really worth it. Chapter 228 30 years later. Time flew by like a hurricane. 30 years later. Moonlight Empire, Moonshadow City. 2 females, an adult and a child, appeared from the teleportation array. Sister Auntie, are we in Grandpa's empire? The little girl asks. We are here, how is it? What's your first impression? Asha, who had grown into an adult, asked while eating a lollipop. It's normal? The little girl didn't know how to describe it. Growing up in one of the most prosperous cities in the world, the city of Arcana, the little girl looks at everything as if normal. Hey, you really are a clueless girl. If my father heard that, he would cut off your allowance. Asha flicks at the little girl's forehead. Grandpa dares. Anyway, my father and mother are there to give me an allowance. The little girl flared up, hearing that her allowance would be cut off. But Big Brother Nathan's money comes from Father, Asha reminded. That's right, this little girl is Nathan and Zoe's second child. Lila is a 7-year-old grandchild of Maximus. Lila also possesses a dimensional-level physique named Ethereal Fairy Body. Its function is straightforward, that is, to look beautiful and cute. Thus, Asha and Lila are the 2 favorites in the family. Lila was bored at home because her grandpa Maximus was in seclusion. With nothing to do, Lila drags her sister Auntie for a walk at her grandpa's territory. However, looking at the ordinary-looking city in front of her, Lila couldn't help but doubt if this was really Grandpa's empire. Now, hearing her allowance may be cut off, she became rebellious. There is also Uncle Neo, I'm sure he will give me money. Lila still didn't relent. With her beauty and cuteness, no one dared to harm her. Unfortunately, Lila was with another spoiled child who had everything at her fingertips since childhood. Heh, I'll tell my brother not to give you anything either. Asha smiled mischievously. How dare a little brat refute me? Asha thought. I'm sorry, Sister Auntie, okay? Lila's eyes moistened as she asked pitifully. Oh, it's nothing. Why are we even fighting? Asha still couldn't resist Lila's cuteness and pinched her cheeks. Now, where should we go? Asha muttered and thought of their first destination. Is there something specific that you would like to do? Asha couldn't decide, so she asked Lila. How about shopping? Lila excitedly suggested. Good idea. Asha also nodded as she began to disguise herself. It seems like shopping is engraved between these two little spoiled brats that they agreed without a fight. What are you doing, Sister Auntie? Lila asked in puzzlement, seeing Asha change her appearance. Because my image was already known by the people here, it's too troublesome to be always surrounded. A few years ago, when he came to visit with her father, the people of the Moonlight Empire came to know her identity as a princess. Thus, if he wanted to avoid being overwhelmed by the crowd, she could only be escorted by guards or disguise her appearance. You too, with your cuteness, maybe you will be kidnapped in a few seconds. Asha teased. Is Grandpa's empire so dangerous? Lila looked around scared. Ha ha ha, I'm kiddin'. The rule here is as strict as Origin Domain, so you don't need to worry. You scared me. Lila gnashed her teeth in anger. Anyway, let's go. I knew a big shopping mall here. All right. After boarding autonomous vehicles, they reached their destination after a few minutes of traveling. There is also an autonomous vehicle around, huh? Lila muttered in amazement. Usually, only core regions of the domain had this kind of transportation. But here, it seems that it's everywhere. Don't sweat on that, Moonlight Empire has the most advanced transportation in the entire Curse continent. It can be said that you can reach anywhere within the Empire within a few minutes to a few hours. So amazing, Grandpa is super rich. Hee, let's go inside. Lila's eyes finally landed on the mall. Different from the usual mall in Origin Domain, which usually only displays 1 or 2 items. Here, the mall is filled to the brim. Instead of catalogs and lists, the actual products were fully displayed for them to see. Lila's eyes shone with excitement as she looked around. Come on, I will treat you today. Hee, then I'm welcome. First, they went to try the clothes. Good morning, madams. Welcome to Fairy Apparel, the stewardess greeted. Would you like me to show me around? No, we're good on our own. Asha waved her hand. Then I wish you a pleasant shopping experience. Lila didn't bother the stewardess any longer and drag Asha. Sister Auntie, I want this. Also, this, and this. Lila went on a shopping spree as she chose all the pleasant clothes. Oh, don't bother me, just grab what you want and pay later, Asha said. She can't take her eyes off the other clothes. During the decades, the clothing and food industry in Moonlight Empire boomed like no other. With Maximus' unlimited investment, ingenious design and invention begin. It became so famous that even people from the Arcane continent came to visit for a vacation. It can be said that during this decade, the Moonlight Empire became a veritable vacation spot in the Curse continent. After a few hours, after almost emptying the mall, the two were a little tired. Sister Auntie, I'm hungry. Do you know any good food here? Do you have any cravings? Something savory and cute would be better. Then let's go to this year's food competition champion. I heard the food he cooks is super cute. Asha thought for a while and replied. Oh, there is even a food competition here? Of course, food is essential for life. It is so important that it can be a matter of life and death. So serious? Lila rolled her eyes. Anyway, the food competition here is so fierce. I can still remember the taste of last year's dishes. Asha nearly drooled at the thought. Really? It's that delicious? Hee, you will know. Soon, they came to the said restaurant. Unlike others, there was not a massive line outside. Coming in, a waiter asked for their reservation number as they were guided to their seats. After getting their order, they were quickly served with food. The food is adorable, just like Asha said. Lila could barely bring herself to eat it were it not for her appetite. By the way, Sister Auntie, where should we go next? Lila asked while eating. We watch a movie. Movie? Ugh, it's so boring. Are there other activities? Otherwise, we'll go shopping again. Lila couldn't help but complain. The movie we'll watch is about father. Don't you want to know the life of your beloved grandpa? Grandpa live action? Is it good? I didn't watch it yet, but based on the review, it should be good.
Oh, then let's watch it.
The two quickly finished their meal, eager to watch the movie. Watching the movie, the two couldn't help but be tense. From Maximus' struggle to being noble to the fighting kingdoms in the Sunburnt Plateau. With various schemes and wars, Maximus fought bravely like a god of war until he established the Moonlight Empire. The movie is so thrilling that they feel a heroic version of Maximus. It's so good. Who created this adaptation? Lila couldn't help but ask. While watching the movie, she felt as though she experienced her grandpa's entire life. It's a good movie, but it lacks details. Asha just rolled her eyes at the movie. If Asha hadn't known the life experience of her father, she would have believed this movie. What struggle? What schemes? Fighting bravely like a god of war? According to her brother, their father merely bulldozed through the enemy. There were no tactics. If the enemy is tough, smash more money, and it's done. It can be said that their father conquered the whole Sunburn Plateau almost without effort. Lack of details? Are any more conspiracies hidden that were not shown in the movie? Lila asks excitedly, thinking of all kinds of crazy things. Secret? Why would I need to tell you? Asha owed her brother many favors to get her father's life experience. Why would she tell it for free?
Humph, stingy. By the way, what do we do next? Is there anything more fun here?
I heard the beauty spa built by father was finished a month ago. Do you want to go? Asha said after thinking. Is it effective? Lila asks excitedly. My mother said it was effective after trying it a few months ago. Although her father had already been in seclusion for a few years. All kinds of projects he instructed are still being built. Thinking of her father, she couldn't help but sigh. After her father felt his imminent breakthrough to 7, he hurriedly entered seclusion. Now, 3 years had passed, there was still no news. Asha only wished her father a successful breakthrough. May her luck influence her father, and nothing dangerous happens. Chapter 229 Guild Spy. In Shadowhunter City, Guild Recruitment Hall. While Asha and Lila were having fun in the Moonlight Empire, a spy quietly sneaked into the guild. The spy is Midnight Cipher, originating from one of the top intelligence organizations in the world. His mission this time is to estimate how much the guild has grown in the past decades. Since 30 years ago, Shadowhunter Guild began vigorously recruiting members. By now, there were already about 10 billion active guild personnel. What is puzzling is that even with various enticements, once someone had joined the guild, they would never betray. However, according to their source, the guild is relatively free, and you can exit anytime. Many wondered what kind of substance the Shadowhunter Guild fed these individuals to be so loyal. They can understand that the guild offered a massive amount of rare resources. But most top-tier guilds and organizations also have such an incentive. Even then, why does the Shadowhunter Guild still manage to poach their personnel? Many top organizations also send spies to investigate what is so good about the guild. However, like a black hole, they would never return once they joined the guild. All kinds of losses have already sent various organizations in packing. Despite all odds, some intelligence organizations still refuse to give up. Midnight Cipher is one of them, the emotionless puppet of the organization. Enticement would be like floating dust in clouds to him, allowing him to complete many other missions. Coming to the guild recruitment hall, Midnight Cipher completed the process effortlessly. Now let's see what secrets are hidden in this devouring beast. Cipher thought. First, he browsed the guild information that he had just gotten.
There is nothing unusual?
Besides a more advanced guild interface, all the other benefits are the standard of top-tier organizations. Even the rare resources, besides being cheaper and more abundant, there is nothing out of normal. How can this attract others to switch boats? Maybe I will find it once I advance my guild rank? Cipher concluded. Seeing that it would only need some guild points to advance his rank. Cipher immediately got to work. First, he skips all the beginner missions. He was a Tier 7 powerhouse, such a mission would be a waste of time. Scrolling the guild mission interface, he noticed they were recruiting a miner in the Chaotic Sea. The ship, Eternal Voyager, will leave in a month, which is why they are recruiting. The guild points earned depend on harvest, which is just right. Although he didn't have much experience in the Chaotic Sea. As a strong individual, he should be able to harvest many resources. After the application was approved, he toured around the city, not wasting time. Cipher can only say that this city is indeed owned by a top-tier guild. Various construction and facilities that his guild didn't even have were abundant in place. If it were not for the lack of foundation, the Shadowhunter Guild would have already become a Tier 9 guild. Just by seeing this, he had already concluded why many of the personnel from other organizations were easily poached. Who wouldn't want to be a part of such a guild? After all, if they wanted to join a full-fledged Tier 9 guild, their qualifications still needed to be improved. And even if they managed to join the guild by a miracle, they would merely be a collie working hard for the guild. Shadowhunter Guild is just right, they can easily join and quit as they like. Furthermore, the salary is high while the rare resources are cheap.
Where can they find such a convenient thing?
While roaming around the city, he noticed a crowded building. Coming closer, he noticed that it was the guild library. Library? Cypher suddenly thought of the intelligence he received before coming here. It was concluded that there should be a high-tier inheritance here that attracted a large number of individuals to it.
For this, Cypher just sneered. What high-level inheritance?
It was just a newly created guild, less than a century old.
What inheritance can such a guild have?
Even if, by chance, they found hidden relics, it was not enough. After showing his identity and doing complicated vows, he was allowed inside. Coming inside, he was a little shocked. Hundreds of millions of individuals were inside, concentrating on their books. The crowd may have overwhelmed the building if it were not for the space folding array. Curious, he looks around. Grabbing a book, a prompt popped up as he tried to open it. Not enough credits.
Huh?
You need credits to read a Tier 1 book? If it were not for his professionalism, Cypher would have probably cursed by now. Hey, you're new here? A man came up to him.
Is it obvious?
Cypher muttered as he looked at the man.
You.
Cypher couldn't help but be shocked, recognizing the man. What couldn't remember me? The man teased.
Dawn.
It's you, the bastard, who betrayed the organization. Cypher said, suppressing his anger. What betrayal? Didn't I pay for the severance fee? But the guild nurtured you when you have nothing.
Heh.
And I also served them like a dog for hundreds of thousands of years.
Isn't it enough?
Even then. Enough, I'm not your subordinate any longer, you don't need to sermon me. Furthermore, I'm at a higher rank than you in the guild, so you should call me a senior. Hearing Dawn's tone, Cypher had already calmed down as various thoughts appeared in his mind. Can you at least tell me why you betrayed the organization? First of all, it's not betrayal, I'm merely choosing a better environment. All right. Then what makes this guild so great to be a better environment than your previous organization? Cypher changed his wording.
Ha, it's good that you ask.
Maybe you will be my real guildmate after this.
Come follow me.
Soon following Dawn, they came to the cultivation manual area. Cultivation manuals? Is the secret to Shadowhunter Guild hidden here? Cypher thought deeply. Dawn said nothing as he rummaged around the manuals, finding something.
I found it.
Here, I already paid for you, Dawn said, handing him a Tier 1 chapter of the cultivation manual.
This is... Just open it and you will know.
Curious, Cypher opened the book and read the introduction.
Huh? Heaven level manual?
1116 elements? Cypher was a little shocked by the introduction. Heaven level is as rare as a phoenix feather. Usually, only Tier 9 guilds or families possess such stuff. Continuing to read, the shock on his face became intense and his breathing hastened. The cultivation manual in his hands just fitted in his path. The night, fate, and calculation element that he condensed is here. Cypher is already Tier 7, so no matter what heaven-defying manual is in front of him, it's useless. However, if it coincides with his path, there is no problem. He can recondense his realm, just consuming more time. Such a heaven-defying manual will increase his chances of reaching Tier 8 to 100%. More importantly, given enough chance, reaching Tier 9 is no longer a dream. Tier 9 is the apex of the world. All the people in the world hope to reach it. Immortality, wealth, power, women, everything you desire is at your fingertips. Such an opportunity was present in front of him.
How can his heart take it?
Even an emotionless rock will be moved by tides and winds. How can he, a mere human, not be moved by temptations? Dawn, on the side, just smiled slightly at the scene. The familiar routine, the familiar face. Dawn couldn't help but smile, remembering his experience a few years ago. Like Cypher, Dawn came to Shadowhunter to be a spy. However, entering the unsuspecting guild library, a familiar coworker lured him. Don, like an idiot, followed like an obedient dog. After reading the cultivation manual given to him, he stops around motionless for a few minutes as his future couldn't help but flash forward in his mind. With such an experience, Don became a loyal guild member immediately. A Tier 7 member, tisk another windfall. I hope there are more idiots who delivered themselves to the door. Or I could just lure another one? That's good. It's better than waiting around. Just a few more, and I could buy the Tier 7 chapter of my manual. Various thoughts couldn't help but emerge in Don's mind as he thought of a plan. Meanwhile, Cypher already calmed down. You got me this time, your progress didn't lag behind, I see, Cypher said, looking at Don meaningfully. Thinking of his encounter until now, it seems like he was a puppet on the string. A cold sweat appeared as he thought of such a scheming plan. However, looking at the cultivation manual before him, the slightest resistance in his heart was gone. Ha ha ha, it's all for the guild. Don didn't explain anything and laughed. It's indeed all for the guild. Cypher repeated. As for his previous organization, fuck that. His immortality is on the line, other things are irrelevant. Ha ha ha, welcome to Shadowhunter Guild. Chapter 230 Tier 7. In Training Chamber. A cocoon made of mana started to crack and disintegrate slowly. Soon, a man came out as he glistened with luster. Opening his eyes, Maximus looks around calmly. So this is Tier 7. Maximus muttered, feeling his strength. He felt that the past him was merely an ant compared to his current strength. With just his thoughts, he can stir up mana to create chaos and destruction. By the way, my domain. Before his 3 years of seclusion, Maximus had long reached Tier 7. However, to ensure the formation of his domain, he hurriedly entered seclusion. As his domain began to spread, he felt the underlying origin of the world. The very fabric of mana, the law that governed all things. Although he can't control these laws, he can see its very fabric of its detail. Origin domain. What a powerful domain! Maximus muttered in excitement. Usually, although the domain can help you have a glimpse of law, it's only a glimpse. However, for him, it was already presented on his plate. Although he can't eat it, he can smell, touch, and arrange it in whatever he likes. Meaning he can deprive anyone in his domain of the power of law. Without enough control, they can only be a powerless chicken waiting to be chopped off. As for mana, he can also deprive it without a doubt. However, there is no need, as he can beat anyone if they are only fighting with mana. With his unlimited mana, who can still defeat him using it? Only the power of law can harm him. That is why previously he wanted to avoid facing those apex sovereigns. As for 8th tier individuals, they can also use a bit of power of law. He was not so scared about them as he had a lot of preventive measures that he could buy. If push came to shove, he was confident in defeating them. Now, with his current strength, as long as his opponent is not an apex sovereign, he can fight mano-mano without using any tricks. Furthermore, although he is still no match for the apex sovereigns, they can't scare him any longer. They can't do anything to him as long as they're in his domain. They can only wish to harm him unless they fully control the power of law like those ancient apex sovereigns. As for the power of his domain, besides observing the origin of things and depriving the power of law, it can also copy anything. It's not just resources, he can also copy special physiques and other domains. Of course, it's only temporary while his domain is active. Usually, the longest someone can activate their domain is a few hours. However, this rule doesn't apply to Maximus, he had unlimited mana. He can have the copied special physique and domain at all times. It's equivalent to having an additional semi-permanent physique and domains. Unless he dies and the domain is deactivated, he can have it forever. Converging his domain until it was hidden, Maximus opened his system panel. Maximus Shadowcrest. Tier 7, 0%. Mana compatibility, rank 9-dimensional source ultimate. Soul amplitude, 1 billion 0.1%. Soul will, 1 billion 0.1%. Looking at the soul amplitude and the soul will, he couldn't help but smile wryly. Instead of 100 times, he needed 1,000 times to have them completed. Remembering how hard he filled it up to reach the current billion, he had a headache. Although he had system points, the feeling that his head was filled with various information all day long was not good. In the beginning he thought it was awesome and convenient. Now he nearly vomited at such a thought. In his current arsenal of information, Tier 8 cultivation manual, skills, spells, mechanics, domains, special physiques, laws, etc. There are too many that, even with billions of system points daily, it was merely a drop in the ocean. As for the Tier 8 chapter of Origin, Maximus didn't even reach 1% of progress. Tier 8 is the stage of law foundation, and Maximus needed to study over 100,000 laws to create the Tier 8 chapter of Origin. Maximus nearly went bald when he looked at the galaxies of books he needed to study. Closing his system panel, he thought of his next plan. First, the plan to conquer the entire Curse continent is still on the shelves. Maximus wants to delay it as much as possible. Without the strength of the 8th realm, he is still unsure if he can solve all the problems. Second, he still lacks the ultimate treasure needed to consolidate his tier. Over the decades, Maximus has only been able to reserve over 300 ultimate treasures. The other 700 plus are not available. Using a pseudonym, Maximus contacted various dimensional firm personnel to see where he could buy the missing ultimate treasure. Unfortunately, the news he receives is not what he wanted. Starting at Tier 7, ultimate treasures are rarely on sale. The reason he was able to accumulate over 300 of them is that the ultimate treasures he got were not that rare. As for the others, he can only buy them at dimensional auctions or exchange contribution points for them by joining top dimensional organizations. The problem is he has no access to other dimensions. Unless the Myriad World Mall is updated, Maximus can't do anything about his problem. Maximus can only pause his steps and tread lightly until he has enough strength to expose the Myriad World Mall to the world. Shaking his head, Maximus thought of another problem. Reaching the Tier 7 realm, he was about to do a mandatory mission. This mandatory mission is issued directly by Fialon to all students reaching the 7th tier. It is also how students, nurtured by the Origin Arcana Institute, repay their worth. As for the mission, it's to go into the Abyss realm. This time, it's not for some competition or whatnot. It is to slow the pace of the Abyss realm, thereby giving the Ethereum realm more time. They need to kill until they accumulate enough merits to get out. They either die accumulating merits or come out as a hero. As for how many merits points are needed, it's not based on anything but your realm of cultivation. One needs enough merits for the Ethereum realm to promote them to the 8th tier. This time, the world's origin energy doesn't need to be absorbed. The Ethereum realm will directly impart it to you, thereby promoting you to the 8th tier in an instant. Such a method is tempting for many, a shortcut to advancing. If there is such a way, why not take it? Unfortunately for him, to reach Tier 8, the merit he needed to accumulate was overwhelming. Maximus estimated that the merit he needed was almost equivalent to the promotion from Tier 8 to Tier 9. Such a huge amount, even if he killed abyss monsters day and night without stopping. It would take him at least 1,000 years to accumulate enough merits. Now, that's a problem. Lightnovel, the era of imperial domination, is still ongoing, and the all-out war will happen at any time during these 1,000 years. How can he miss it because he was in the abyss? There is also his family. How could he have left them for 1,000 years when he had only been with them for less than a century? Unfortunately, this is a death mission. Maximus can only delay it, not deny it. A big problem. Maximus sighed as he thought of a solution. If I'm only powerful enough, I can traverse dimensions whenever I want. He thought wistfully. Dimensional void body. Suddenly, he thought of his grandson's physique. Although the special physique is still unawakened, it should be enough. After copying Sylvan's special physique and with the assistance of various treasures, Maximus can come back to the Ethereum realm whenever he wants. Hey, the origin domain is really powerful. Thinking that he could copy the physique of anyone, anytime he wanted, Maximus felt the benefit of such a domain. Thinking of the various physiques of his children, he couldn't help but copy them immediately. Over these 30 years, with an unlimited supply of origin mana they could use it to wash clothes and water the garden. All of his wives and his children reached rank 8 supreme potential. Their special physique also exerted a slight effect, making the system determine precisely what special physique they have. Unfortunately, without reaching Tier 9, it was still unawakened. The good news is that none of his wives and children had a mortal level physique. The lowest is a heaven level physique. Maximus can only thank his genes, or maybe the system, for blessing his family that none of them is trash. After all, a special physique is permanent. Unless you had a heaven-defying chance, it's hard to change. As for him being able to choose the ultimate dimensional level physique, it should be the benefit of his transmigration. After all, he was able to float in the void long enough for the system to find him. He also experienced various dimensional exposures during the time-space cracks. His system probably only assisted in filtering and awakening his physique.